my question is regarding new U.S. ambassador in Moscow. So what shall we expect when Lynn Tracy will start her duty in Moscow? Regarding U.S.-Russian relations, what are the plans for the embassy? Are there any plans to restart visa rations? And speaking more broadly, what can you say about current irritants in U.S.-Russian relations? Could you highlight the list of them and share it with us, please? Thank you.
I'll start by saying that's a very long list, but let me begin with Ambassador Tracy. Of course, as you know, Ambassador Tracy was just confirmed late last year by the U.S. Senate to take on her role as the U.S. ambassador in Russia. She is one of our most experienced and respected career diplomats. She has over 25 years of public service, including most recently serving as our ambassador in Armenia. But she's also one of our foremost experts when it comes to the Russian Federation in the region. Part of that owes to her previous service as Deputy Chief of Mission in Moscow. That gives her unique and relevant experience for navigating what is, I think, fair to say, one of the most difficult periods in our bilateral relations. Her focus will be to provide leadership to the embassy to maintain this bilateral relationship in a period of extraordinarily heightened tensions, and to work with the Russian government to improve staffing at the U.S. Embassy platform so that our embassy can perform basic functions like potentially even visa issuance. When it comes to visa services, our inability to provide visa services in Russia is due to actions by the Russian government. In April of 2021, the Russian government made it illegal for our embassy in Moscow to employ both Russian nationals and third country nationals. That determination alone meant that we had to separate over 180 employees. Many of those employees were previously in our consular section where that visa processing takes place. These cuts greatly affected our operations across the board. They impeded our ability to provide visa services. They constrained our ability to engage with the Russian government and the Russian people. We believe it's in the interests of both of our countries, in the United States and in Russia, to have fully effective, functioning missions in our respective countries, including the ability to provide visa services. Our inability to do that, again, is a function of the onerous and unfair restrictions that the Russian Federation has placed on us. In terms of the irritants in the relationship, we've already talked about a couple. I will just add one more, and of course, it is the one that is known to all of you. It is Russia's brutal war against Ukraine. The fact is that we made no bones about the fact that the United States would take certain steps if Russia went forward with its plan to wage an unprovoked, illegal, unjustified war against Ukraine. We said we would do three things. We said we would support the Ukrainian government with massive amounts of security assistance, nearly $25 billion since the start of this administration. We said we would hold the Russian government to account. We've done that as well with sanctions, with export controls, with other financial and economic measures. Doing both of these things with the support and coordination of dozens of countries around the world, while also, thirdly, shoring up the NATO alliance and making sure that our defensive alliance is prepared to take on any potential aggression from the Russian Federation and the broader region. And we've had a concerted focus on the so-called eastern flank of the alliance, but as a result of these efforts, NATO has never been more united, more purposeful, more prepared to take on any potential threat from Russia. Okay, Alex?
Thank you so much, Ned. Welcome to the Foreign Press Center. Great to see you. I have a general question on U.S. foreign policy, but before that, just starting from the news of the day, you mentioned more than $3 billion, 3.75 to Ukraine and its partners, or U.S. partners in the region. I know that the DOD has its own saying, so they broke down $3 billion portion of it. My question is about $682 million that the U.S. will oversee. Do you have the list of those countries? Most precisely, I'm most interested in Georgia, Moldova, Azerbaijan, Armenia? Because the definition in this list is you define them as those impacted by Russia's war. I have another question after that.
Sure. Do you want to ask your second question?
Thanks so much.
Good.
I was wondering how much Ukrainian war impacted U.S. foreign policy agenda in terms of shaping your approach to frozen conflicts. You have been describing it for day in, day out in another building. But my question is, now that we know why Russia is freezing those conflicts for reason, and it became abundantly clear that Russia wants to keep its influence in Georgia, Azerbaijan, Moldova, and others. I was wondering, moving forward, if you will be the State Department is considering to take another look at those countries. Thank you so much.
Great. Thanks. So first, Alex, on your first question, yes, we did announce a massive security assistance package today, $3.75 billion in new military assistance to Ukraine. That includes $2.85 billion in additional arms and equipment to Ukraine under our drawdown authority, the so-called Presidential Drawdown Authority. This is the 29th time that we have issued presidential drawdown, but there also is foreign military financing packages involved in this. This is funding that is not for the immediate needs of Ukraine or its neighbors, but for the longer-term resilience and longer-term defensive capabilities of these countries. Some of this FMF financing did go to Ukraine. $225 million in FMF financing did go to Ukraine today for its longer-term security needs. But as you referenced, there was an additional dispatch of $682 million in foreign military financing for regional partners and allies on NATO's eastern flank to incentivize and to help them backfill the important donations that they've made to the security assistance needs of the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian people. If we have a full breakdown of that $682 million and the extent at which it went to particular countries, we'll provide that to you. But again, these were to our allies and partners, including to NATO allies on the eastern flank. To your question on frozen conflicts, we are, of course, cognizant of the fact that frozen conflicts, in some cases, Moscow has sought to use frozen conflicts and to freeze conflicts in place and to use that to its own strategic advantage. We've seen this in the course of several previous conflicts, several current frozen conflicts. It is why we have been so skeptical and about Russia's claims for so-called ceasefires. You heard me say yesterday that we viewed President Putin's call for a Christmas ceasefire as nothing but cynical. I think that assessment has been borne out given what we've seen over the course of the day today. But we believe that our cynicism, we believe that our skepticism is warranted because of what we've seen from Russia over the course of this conflict. Previously, in the earliest days of the conflict, when Russia would call for so-called humanitarian ceasefires in places like Mariupol, we would see those immediately violated. We also know that there may be an ulterior motive in calling for a ceasefire like the one that we've heard from President Putin in recent days. It is our concern that Moscow would seek to use any potential pause in fighting to refit, to regroup, and ultimately to reattack with more vengeance, with more brutality, with even more lethality. It is not our goal to see Moscow be able to regroup and to reposition its forces just to re-engage in an even more brutal fashion against the people of Ukraine. That's why we want to see a peace that is just, yes, but is also durable, a peace that is lasting, is not a conflict that is just frozen into place, but recognizes Ukraine's independence, its territorial integrity, its sovereignty, and that leaves Ukraine in a position to defend itself against future acts of aggression. Yes, in front.
Thank you. First of all, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you did. Yeah, go ahead.
But it's a.
But sorry, we have a lot of people in the room. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ned.